Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwara, Gurureva Param Dhamma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Chinmayam Yapyat Sarvam Trailokyam Sacharacharam Tatpadam Darshitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Tvameva Mata cha Pita Tvameva Tvameva Bandhus cha Sakha Tvameva Tvameva Vedya Dravinam Tvameva Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva. Jai. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahana Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Excuse me. So we are still in our 14th chapter. What verse are we on?
29.
You got it?
29.
I think that's what he said. 29?
Yes, 29.
And will you help us out, please?
Purva kalpe kritat punyat kalpada veva ched bhavet gandharv tattvam tatrishotra deva gandharva uchyate. If one becomes a Gandharva in the very beginning of the cycle, because of his meritorious actions in the earlier cycle, he is called a celestial Gandharva.
So you don't have to believe this. It's not essential to the practice. It's part of the celestial cosmology of traditional Hinduism. What is the set of the soul if you don't realize after you die? And according to your merits, you go to some loka. Loka means, could mean a planet actually, but world or people or locus, a place. So the idea is if you're a super goody-goody, you can go to a place of super sensuous experience where you hang out as a celestial discarnate being. You don't have a physical body until the end of the age. Does this happen? I do not know. Vidyaranya talks about it. I think a much better approach is let's deal with liberation right here, right now. For the person of realization, being Jivan Mukta, liberated while alive, and being Videha Mukta, liberated beyond the body, are the same thing. What is the mark of the man or woman of realization? They know they're not the body. So, if you have an old pair of shoes and they're worn out, does it make any difference to you if you put them in the back of the closet for years or toss them into the fire and burn them? The point is, you're not your shoes. So whether you have a physical body or some celestial body is unimportant to the man of wisdom or the woman of wisdom. Let Ishvara decide what he needs in the moment for his Leela. Let him determine what particular Nama Rupa, name and form, might appear. Man or woman of realization has no relationship with. Any thoughts on this? Your teacher in Nagpuri, do they talk about these non-carnate, incarnate realms and posit their reality or stuff like that?
Yeah, she's quite into it.
Interesting.
But I think it depends on the teacher. Like she's quite, I think, has an affinity for it.
I would like to posit this. Which is more real for you? A dream where you're doing mundane things, you're driving your car hither and thither. I've always wondered, where is thither? Or you have a dream when you're flying through the air. Which is more real?
They're equally unreal.
Huh?
They're equally unreal.
Yeah. So if you think you're a Gandharva, you're not knowing the truth. Next verse.
अग्निश्वात्तादयो लोके पितरिश्चिरवासिनः कल्पादावेव देवत्वं गता आजानदेवताः. The Agnivattas and others who dwell for a long time in their region are called the Pitras. Those who have achieved the state of deities in the beginning of their cycle are called Ajana Devatas.
Yeah, these are different classes of non-carnate beings. Again, the person who sets their goal to become some kind of a non-carnate being is still a fool. All of these states are temporary. Moksha is when we go beyond any personal sense. Now, listen carefully. I'm not saying these beings don't exist. What I'm saying is I do not know. Christians have a completely different angelology. You've got angels and archangels and dominions, and powers, and thrones, and all these beings. Do they exist?
So are they based on like people's experiences that they documented and created?
I don't know where they come from. Some of them come from Hebrew mythology. Most of them do. I don't know where the ancient Israelites came up with these things. It could have been good drugs for all I know. But it's not a lot different than saying it'll be much better if I become president of the United States. Or it'll be better when I make 10 million. It'll be better when I have 2 wives instead of 1. It'll be better when some external circumstance changes. It's still based in the notion I'm an individual. People, places, things, and conditions, be they supersensuous or not, can give me something lasting. I don't care what identification you have, it's a lie. Let's go on. Let's see. I suspect Vidyaranya is going to finally say this.
अस्मिन् कल्पेश्च मे धाति कर्म कृत्वा महत्पदम् अवाप्या जानदेवैर्यो याः पूज्यास्ता कर्म देवताः. Those who obtain the glorious position and are fit for worship by the Ajana Devatas by performing the Ashwamedha sacrifice and other good actions are the Karma Devatas.
Yes. Now, if you ever read what the Ashwamedha sacrifice is, it's really gross. And the poor horse, and the dogs, and the poor woman who has to sleep in the stallion's ejaculate all night. It's really gross. All of this is still rooted in ignorance. In Vivekachudamani, Shankara defines vairagya, this passion, detachment, that desire to give up all experiences, attachment to all experiences gained through the senses, and the desire to give up all forms of self, starting with the body up to and including the form of Brahma, the creator. So all these celestial beings are in that spectrum. We're enjoying to give it up. Now, for us yogis, where is this possibly problematic? Most of us who are mumukshus, who desire liberation, have the idea, when I get there, then I'll be a realized person. Oh, can't wait to see how I'm going to glow. All these people are going to come and I'll just bless them. I'll be so holy, Shaktipat everywhere. I'll be worshipped. No blame. The ego can't think of anything that is not the ego. But it's all foolishness. For the mumukshu to be thinking about how cool it's going to be a realized person. is like the person contemplating suicide and thinking, I can't wait to see Aunt Mary's face at my funeral because she's going to know it's her fault. Oh, I'll see her there in the front row and I'll just gloat. Sorry, dude, you're dead. You're not there. The mark of the person of steady wisdom, the jnani, is they know they are Brahman, not any form of self. Don't settle for less than that. Any thoughts on this? Now he's just enumerating what various scriptures say here. Going on.
I actually have a thought or
Yeah.
question. So any claim of any realization, the act of claiming would be an I that identifies with it.
Well, what I would say is this. Someone once asked me, Jim, are you enlightened? And I said to him, I quit asking the question. Now, if you were to ask me if I have any doubts about my essential nature, that you can know. But that's not a kind of person. It's the knowledge that I'm not a person. Do you see the difference?
And it's not knowledge for a Jim, it's just Brahman being Brahman.
Well, and there is that pratyabhignana, that recognition in the subtle intellect. But what it means, what concern have I? In the end, that's not real either.
Yeah.
But I say, don't try to be any kind of a person. And you can tell a person who's identified with a spiritual experience. You know how you can tell it? Because they're going to tell you about it. That's the joke. How can you tell if someone's a vegan? You don't have to worry, they'll tell you. So when you find someone who wants to tell you about their samadhis and all their experiences and stuff like that, I'm not saying they didn't have them. But a real Satguru, when you've had an interaction with them, you will be deep in the knowledge of yourself. The experiences of the Guru are fundamentally meaningless. First of all, you don't know if he's bullshitting. Or she. But you can know beyond a doubt that you are you. Is that useful?
Yeah.
All right, next one.
Yamagni mukhya devas syu Nyata Vindra Brihaspati Prajapatir Virat Prokto Brahma Sutratmana Manamakah. Yama and Agni are foremost among the gods. Indra and Brihaspati are well known and superior to them. Prajapati is mentioned as Virat, and Brahma is called the Sutraman or Hiranyagarbha.
So these are very descriptions, names and descriptions of the various Vedic deities. Do they exist? Do they not exist? It's unimportant. Which one's better than the other? Wouldn't worry about it. This is one of the things that I think is excellent about Buddhism. This kind of stuff the Buddha basically just did not address. He basically said it has nothing to do with being free. Let's talk about how can we be free from suffering, which I think is the real essence of it. Next one.
सार्वभौमादिसूत्रान्ता उत्तरोत्तरकामिनः अवाङ्मनसं गम्यो यमात्मानन्दस्ततः परः. From the king to Brahma, each desires the joy of the one higher than himself. But the bliss of the self, which is beyond the grasp of the mind and the senses, is superior to that of all others.
Yes! Now he's come to the point. Whatever your experience, I want the next one up. I want advancement. Okay, I've got to this level of experience. Now I want more. And now what Vidyaranya is saying is all of the sensuous pleasures and super sensuous pleasures are by nature finite and impermanent. Where is happiness? Chidananda Rupa, my swabhav, my nature, swarup, is bliss consciousness. And this is not achieved or obtained by kartavya, struggle. All these other pleasures are the fruit of meritorious actions. You got to work for them. Paradox. To enjoy yourself is the cessation of all struggle. And it doesn't matter if you're a king or a peasant, or like Karkati, a big fat demoness. It doesn't matter if you're a Brahmin or a Chandala. It doesn't matter if you're an Indian or a Westerner. While the scriptures may extol all these various levels of celestial beings and the bliss and the powers that they have, the scriptures all say they are nothing compared to the jnani. Not because he has or she has fantastic powers, because struggle is gone. They have peace of mind. They've given up chintya, worry. Took him a while, but he got to the point. All right, next one.
तस्थैकाम्येषु सर्वेषु सुखेषु श्रोत्रियो यतः निःस्पृहस्तेन सर्वेषाम् आनन्दा सन्ति तस्य ते. As the knower of the Vedas has no desire for all those coveted pleasures, the bliss of all creatures are his.
Say that again, I'm not sure I understood it.
As the knower of the Vedas has no desire for all those coveted pleasures, the
Coveted pleasures,
coveted,
okay.
yes. The bliss of all creatures are his.
Yes. So what does it mean? Oh, the knower of the Vedas here, we mean it in the deepest sense. Veda means knowledge, vidya. It doesn't mean, oh, I want a Cadillac, here it comes. I want chocolate cake, here it comes. I want more money, here it comes. No. If you had the Cadillac, how would you feel? Happy. If you had the money, how would you feel? Happy. If you had chocolate cake, how would you feel? Happy. Why not go for the happiness? Oh, I don't need to go anywhere. It's my swaroop. Kartavya, struggle, is like the person hitting themselves on the head with a hammer. Oh, it hurts. I want. Why are you doing that? Because it feels so good when I stop. That's what the satisfaction of a desire is. You quit hitting yourself with the dumbass hammer. That's it. Drug, sex, and rock and roll. Drug, sex, rock and roll. More better, different. More better, different. Money, property, prestige. Money, property, prestige. Oh, then you start up again. It's crazy. That's the word. Would it be a Gandharva? That's a big one. Oh, the pujas I gotta do for that for lifetimes. Stop it. Put down the hammer. Next one.
Sarvakamati reshokta yadva sakshi chidatmana swadeha vatsarvadehashvapi swadeha vatsarvadehashva api bhogana vekshate. This is described as achieving all the desired objects, or it may be explained as the witness consciousness of the knower, experiencing the enjoyments of all the bodies like those through his own body.
Yeah. And again, how you describe it. When the mind can taste the juice and the bliss of Brahman. The whole thing about it is it's always available. With one caveat. If you're stupid and you crave the world, it'll fade. It's either or. Snake in the rope. You're smooching that damn snake. Won't ever see the rope. The price tag for enjoying the bliss of Brahman is complete renunciation of the phenomenal world. What does that mean? It doesn't mean run away on top of the mountain. It means quit believing in it. The only renunciation that's efficacious is to renounce the mind. What does it mean? Don't believe your mind. Quit worrying. Take it easy. Ride the horse in the direction it's going. Don't push the river downstream. Be simple. Rest in the sound, which is easy for the person of complete renunciation. Next one.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
I'm just curious your thoughts. Do you think someone who just completely detaches or renounces a yogi but doesn't focus on jnana, say just bhakti, they can also get moksha
If they focus on bhakti, yes.
and just surrender
What you do is you love God till you disappear. That's the path of bhakti. You love God with such intensity that the personal sense of self dissolves, which is different than the nihilist who sees the total vanity of the world, but has no yoking of any kind. Then it's just terrible and terrifying. Did that make sense?
Yeah.
So back to Gita, verse 55, chapter 2. The person who first gives up all the desires of the mind and is satisfied in the self by the self. There's a very famous, not famous, but a really well done book called Christian Zen. And it's written by William Johnston. William Johnston is a premier Catholic theologian. I think he was a Jesuit. He might have been a Dominican. Anyway, he taught in Kyoto. Part of that early group of Catholic priests who, in an effort to recover the contemplative tradition in Catholicism, studied Zen Buddhism. And he was at a Zen sesshin, which is like a Vipassana retreat, except it's Zen. And in a Zen retreat, you have what's called Dokusan. Do they have something, do they call it that?
Yeah.
Yeah, Dokusan is your interview with the Roshi. So Johnson goes and sees the Roshi. And the Roshi. Now, mind you, this guy is a Western contemplative translator of this seminal book on the silent prayer called The Cloud of Unknown. So he's there with the Roshi, and the Roshi says, well, how's your meditation? Well, my legs hurt. I have a hard time. Says, no, sit on a chair. But how is your meditation going? So he describes the practice. Well, just right out of the cloud of unknowing, I'm sitting in silence, putting a cloud of forgetting between me and the world, a cloud of unknowing between me and God, and endeavoring to pierce that cloud with the dart, with the arrow of my love. Classic Bhakti Yoga. And the Roshi says, good, keep at it. Soon your God will disappear. And Johnston is a little upset by it. Do you argue with the Roshi? And he says, well, I thought I would keep at it, and at some point I would disappear. And the Roshi says, yes, it's the same thing. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter which way you approach it. Is that useful?
Yeah.
All the four pramanas are valid means of knowledge. Karma yoga, bhakti yoga, raja yoga, jnana yoga. All valid. Some of them take a lot longer. Jnana yoga is for those with the greatest moksha, who have that chitta shuddhi, as your teacher uses. I like that term. I'm going to shamelessly steal it. It's purity of mind. Who can, with comparative ease, renounce the world, go for the big kahuna. But that's not available to everybody because of the grossness of their minds. So we have the other yogas. Karma yoga is for those people who are engaged in work in the world. I want a job. I want to make a contribution. I have ambitions. I want a purpose-driven life. I want to make a difference. Bhakti yoga. I relate to the world through my heart. I want connection. I want community. I want God to be other because I want to love God. Listen carefully. The Raja yogis are interested in power. They probably won't admit it, but that's for whom it is. Those for whom power is a fascination, thing of interest. Jnana yogis, it's a non-intellectual path for intellectuals. People who want to know. It's true. All right, next verse.
Sarva kamaptirek. What did I do this? Yeah. Agyasapye tadasyeva nato triptir abodhatah yo veda so shanu te sarva kamanitya bravit shrutihi. Doubt. Being the witness consciousness, even the ignorant man has this universal enjoyment. Reply. No. Being devoid of the knowledge of himself as the witness, he does not experience satisfaction. The Shruti says that he who knows the truth achieves all the desired objects.
Yes. So if you still think you're a person, again, the frame the Buddhists have is so clear. In Vedanta, frequently we'll say the jiva bhavana arises first, then the other things arise. The Buddhists use the term dependent origination. They arise together. I think that's more realistic, frankly. When I think I'm a person, at the same time arises the experience of the phenomenal world as other. And always that personal sense of self has a feeling of incompleteness. Then I've got a struggle. Those three ideas arise. That is samsara. That is dukkha. That is the mind. That's the karma chakra. That is maya. That is avidya. That sucks. But it's only those three ideas. So if you think you're a person, you're going to have a goal. When you know you're Brahman, you no longer have goals. The world arises spontaneously in me. What concern have I for it? Pretty, but insubstantial. Soon as I think I'm a person, I'm going to be under the throes of kartanya, sense of effort. And it only takes two forms. I either want to fix the world in some way or fix me in some way, or both. Any thoughts on this? Did I hear a thought? Just a next one.
Yadva sarvatpatam swasya samna gayati sarvada aham anna tathanada cheti sama hyadhiyate. Or he enjoys everything because he becomes all, as that famous passage which expresses his all-pervading selfhood sings, I am the food as well as the eater of the food.
So this is all just ways of articulating the experience of the jnani as it's articulated in scripture. But the thing to understand, don't romanticize it. Don't think that if you're a jnani, you're going to be able to know what's happening in Tokyo in the middle of the night, or you know what's happening on planets in outer space, or you can read other people's minds. One of the things you will find is as you get more and more empty, and your mind gets more and more quiet, you will become more and more perceptive. Because your capacity to witness isn't jumbled by your own bullshit. And when you know your own mind, you've embraced your inner Hitler, you know everybody's mind. So with enormous compassion, you can clearly see the foibles of others. As you know them. Does that make sense? Don't seek psychic powers. It's like building big muscles at the gym. You can get them, but they will not give you peace. Only Atma Vidya will bring peace. What do we mean by Atma Vidya? Not, oh, I've read the book, I know what the self is. I, Jim, know what the self is. No. Direct experience. Aham Brahmasmi. I am. Next one.
Dukha bhavascha kamapti ruphe hyevam nirupite kritakritya tvamanyatcha prapta prapyat tvamikshatam. Thus are established the nature of both the absence of misery and the fulfillment of desires experienced by the knower of the self. His other experiences, that is, the satisfaction of having done all that was to be done and of having achieved all that was to be achieved, may be seen elsewhere.
So, what is the pinnacle of ambition? Worldly people want to be the richest person in the world, or the greatest singer in the world, or have the best friends in the world, be the smartest in the world. What is that? Knowing which there's nothing beyond to know. What is that accomplishment? Maha Siddhi, beyond which there's nothing left to accomplish. The Veda Anta. Yeah. So, is that the end of the chapter?
There's like two concluding verses. There's like a repetition of like verses 40 to 57 of chapter 7, I think.
Okay, let's go through that. Is
Uh,
that done by the editor or is that by Vidyaranya?
Not sure, but there's no like translation. It just lists the verses, and then it has a concluding verse at the end.
Let's do the concluding verse.
Okay. Ubhayam triptidipehi samyak gasmabhiritam ta evatranusantheya shloka buddhi vishuddhaye. Both the topics have properly been dealt with in chapter 7 on the lamp of perfect satisfaction. These verses quoted below should be meditated upon for the purification of the mind. And then it lists like 20 odd verses, and then there's a final verse. But the final.
So, in your text, I don't have it in front of me. If you wish, you can do as he suggests. Go back and review those verses. But we're not going to do it tonight.
It says this fourth chapter of the section called the bliss of Brahman describes the bliss of knowledge. Until that bliss is attained, a man should engage himself in the practice of the contemplation of Brahman.
Is this the beginning of the 15th chapter?
No, this is the last verse, the concluding verse.
Okay.
That's the end.
Well, I think we'll end a bit. Well, no, we can start it. It's only 20, 25 hours. Before we go on, any questions about this? I think the salient points are these. We have Vasanananda, Vishayananda, Brahmananda. What are the three ways in which we experience the bliss of the self? Ananda. First, of course, in deep sleep. Everybody loves a deep sleep. Vasana, Ananda. We get a taste of the bliss of the self through the Vishaya, through the objects of the senses. Desire, object of desire become one. That point of pleasure, pramoda, is a taste of myself. In the end, the objects are not powerful beasts that are going to grab you and pull you under. No, essentially neutral. Based on the force of the past, a particular mind will have a preference for this and not that. It's not problematic. When we get further into Yoga Vasishta, Vasishta will use this image. The ignorant person is like someone standing on the banks of the river in the hot summer sun, and they're roasted from head to foot. But the jnani is like the person who's waded out in the river up to his neck. Oh, it's so cool. Yet the sun still beats down on his head. So at the level of Vyavahara transactions, your body will get its allotted dose of successes and failures, joys and sorrows. But the jnani has Shitala, manasaha, coolness of mind. He's given the big cosmic middle finger. Sees it, acts as responsibly as he possibly can, knowing the equipment's going to fall short because it always does. Oops. No concern for it. Let Daddy do it. Let Ishvara use this thing in the world however he will. No concern for the fruits. If you want to be happy, cosmic teeter-totter, the greater my expectations, the greater my attachments, the greater my control issues, the greater my identification, the less my serenity. The more I let go, the more I have radical perpetual acceptance, the more I surrender, the more I see Brahma Satyam Jagat Nitya. The easier it is for the mind to revel in itself. You choose. Any thoughts on this chapter before we start the last one? Okay.
Panchadashodhyaya Brahmanande Vishayananda. Chapter 15, the bliss of objects.
Oh, this is going to be good.
Athatra Vishayanando Brahmananda Sharupa Bhak Nirupyate Dvarabhuta Tadash Shatvam Shrutir Jagau. Now in this chapter is described the bliss which is derived from the contact of the mind with external objects, which may be called a doer to the bliss of Brahman and an aspect of it. The Shruti has established that it is an aspect of that bliss.
So this is the second level. This is Vishaya Ananda, the experience that I get. So to break it down, first level is Priya. I determine what's dear to me, and it varies from person to person based on the force of the past. What one person likes, another person doesn't. And what do? Once I've decided that's dear to me, Priya, I endeavor to get proximate to that person, place, thing, or situation, moda. I'm in the vicinity of the delicious object. Finally, when desire and object of desire become one, pramoda, the point of pleasure. The foolish person thinks that pleasure is inherent in the object, which then leaves a vasana and compels me to want to repeat it. The yogi knows it's just a mediated experience of my own self, and a very small portion too. stays in the now. So let's see what Vidyaranya says about it all.
एषोऽस्य परमानन्दो यो खण्डैकर सात्मकः अन्यानि भूतान्ये यत्तस्य मात्रामेवोपभुञ्जते. The Shruti says that this is the supreme bliss which is indivisible and homogeneous. It is Brahman himself, and that other beings individuated by avidya enjoy only a fraction of it.
Yes. So understand Ananda, the self, is not a feeling. Listen carefully. Brahman never changes. Yourself is a constant, eternal factor, which is changeless. You always exist, Sat. You always shine as the light of awareness. Even in deep sleep, I illumine the nothingness of the Avyakta, the unmanifest. But it's very clear. Our direct experience is, I'm not happy all the time. So whatever Ananda is, it can't be some emotion. And we romanticize it. We hear stories about Ramakrishna falling out, or Ananda Mayama just, Ananda, Ananda. That's a mind state. That's this Brahmananda Rasaswa that Vidyaranya is talking about. So the safest way to start with, I suggest we translate Ananda as no sorrow reaches there. It's the place that's beyond all sorrow, all mind states. Shunyata, it's empty of all that. Just like the waves are no different fundamentally than the ocean. If it's a storm and the waves are going like this, it's the ocean itself appearing as the waves. And then when the storm is past, the glassy sea for miles and miles and miles. Where did the waves go? Did a big tanker come by and cut them off? Where does my sorrow go? It was nothing real. Just like when the waves subside, emerge, as it were, into the ocean, language falls short. When the mind gives up its Vikshepa Shakti, its Kartavya, its craving, its longing, its jonesing, then the mind abides in the self. Now, there is a constant experience of the existential peace. I know nothing's ever going to harm me. And it's permanent and it never ends. But how happy the mind can be. That's like trying to count to the highest number. There's no end to how deeply the mind can revel in the self. No. So that's the dance of Vishaya Ananda, the bliss through the objects. It's only a mediated way, using a medium to get to the bliss of myself. It's always finite, it's always impermanent. Next one.
Shanta Khoras Tatha Mudha Manaso Vritta Yastridha Vairagyam Kshanti Raudaryam Ityadhya Shanta Vrittayah. The mental modifications are of three kinds: serene, sattvika, agitated, rajasika, and dull, tamasika. The sattvika modifications are detachment, fortitude, liberality, and so forth.
So, the sattvic mind. So, in Gita, Krishna says, O Arjuna, be you ever beyond the gunas. Okay, I remember The Witness. I just watched the play of the gunas. And then he says, and ever remain in the sattvic state. Well, make up your mind, Krishna. Do you want me to be beyond the gunas, or do you want me to be sattvic? Yes. Do you want to be happy? Yes?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Cultivate sattva. That's the teaching. The Rajasic mind is the suffering mind. The Tamasic mind. Okay, you might have momentary respite in deep sleep or swoon or heroin. It's always temporary. How do you cultivate sattva? Cultivate this purity of mind. Viveka Vairagya Cha. We talk about that in the very beginning, becoming Adhikari, a fit student. But in the end, it is the most advanced practice. Discriminate. Namasakyam Jaganitya. Desire to give up attachment and identification. There it is. Let's see what Vidyaranya says.
Trishna Sneho Ragalobha Vidyadhya Ghora Vrittayah Sammoho Bhayamityadhya Katitha Mudha Vrittayah. The Rajasika modifications are thirst and love for objects, attachment to them as if they were real, greed, and so forth. The Tamasika modifications are said to be delusion, fear, and so forth.
Yes. Sneha. Lust. Stickiness. Thirst. Trishna. All forms of Rajasic love. And our suffering is there. Going on.
Vrittishvetasu sarvasu brahmanash chit swabhavata pratibimbati shantasu sukham cha pratibimbati. The consciousness aspect of Brahman is reflected in all these modifications. But in the Sattvika modifications alone, joy also is reflected.
Yes. So, if I am lusting, do I know that I have lust? Yes. If I have anger, do I know the anger? Yes. If I'm upset and deluded and depressed, do I know it? Oh, do I know it? So the Sat, the Chit, is always there, but the joy is not available to the mind. All of these are modifications. All right, one more.
Rupam rupam babhuvasau pratirupa iti shrutihi upama suryaketyadi sutra yamasa sutrakrit. The Shruti says that entering into different bodies, the Supreme Self assumes different forms. Vyasa, the author of the Brahma Sutras, wrote the sutra which illustrates the entry of Brahman into the bodies by the example of the sun taking different forms when reflected in different water vessels.
Yes. So this Chidabhasa that we've talked about in prior ones. But we can also look at it this way. So when jealousy is in the mind, it is that Chidabhasa, that personal sense of self that experiences and identifies with the jealousy. I'm jealous. When I'm lusting, it is that Chidabhasa itself, which assumes the form of the lust and the knower of the lust. I'm also horny, etc. Or depression or anger. So we can look at it as the Hiranya did, where it takes form in all these different bodies from incarnation to incarnation. But I think more useful is to interpret it as these are the various mental, physical conditions, each one discrete and unique. When I'm identified. So Michael was telling me earlier, you had a hectic day,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So that was a different incarnation than maybe the day before when you were feeling just really chill.
Yeah.
Or Saturday. The Sat was there, the Chit was there, but the Ananda is not available to the mind as much. You were dealing with stuff. All right, we need to quit. What verse are we on for next week? 3?
Number 7.
Oh, golly. I can't count. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Sri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.